Hey guys, KinoFlex here, back with another video. Since you guys liked the last one so much, I decided to make another video responding to one of Colin's response videos because he's acting like a complete fool once again. In this video, he's criticizing a guy named the Critical Stinker or something, and it's over him not liking the Thunderbolts, the latest MCU movie to come out. And this is probably going to be a hot take, but I myself did not like the Thunderbolts. I know, but just hear me out, guys. I have a whole video explaining why I didn't like it, but I have no problem with people enjoying it themselves. There's just a lot of issues I have with the film that prevents me from liking it, which I'll reiterate in this video. But the defenses I see Colin making for it are just downright awful, which is what inspired me to make this video responding to him again. And before I start, I will acknowledge that people may dislike Critical Stinker as a reviewer, but that shouldn't really have any bearing on whether someone's arguments against him are good or not. And if he makes an argument that is as bad as Colin's, I'll address him too. So with that out of the way, let's begin.
So Marvel's Thunderbolts came out a couple weeks ago, and I really enjoyed this movie. I don't think it's like a top 10 MCU project or anything, but I do think it's like a strong 7.58 out of 10, which is a blessing for modern MCU fans. But I came across this video a couple days ago from one of the worst media reviewers on the platform.
Now, there's no need to be humble, Colin. If anyone deserves that title, it's you. You would think that a guy who actively avoids looking for a job would at the very least put in some effort in his videos, but the amount of pure slop content that you put out that could be written by AI, and let's be honest, some most definitely were, is something for the history books. So give yourself a round of applause for all of the effort, or rather lack of effort, in maintaining an almost 80k sub channel by scraping at the bottom of the barrel. You earned it.
Thunderbolts gave me the Marvel cringe, and I decided to see what this idiot had to say this time around. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
It's the movie equivalent of an annual dental checkup. You know it's coming, but it's not like you're pumped up to get started on it or anything. And why would you be? It's just another by-the-numbers team-up movie featuring a bunch of B and C-list characters that most people can barely remember from films and TV shows most of us didn't watch, taking on a nebulous threat that's poorly explained in a series of action scenes that look like they've been done a million times before. Not exactly compelling stuff.
Wow, so we're already starting off the video just like so many of his other dogshit reviews, and just like one that I've already responded to in the past. Almost every single thing he just said is a blanketed statement with no explanation as to why something is actually bad, which is one of my least favorite things that I come across when looking at critique videos. And him saying, oh well, it's a movie about a bunch of B and C list characters that nobody cares about, as if Marvel hasn't done that multiple times already in the past.
And just like all of your dogshit response videos, you start off bitching about the preamble. You do this constantly, and it's so annoying to hear you complain about it for no reason. A preamble is not a blanketed statement. It is an introductory statement, which, like an opening statement in a trial, provides you with the context of what is about to be argued. In Stinker's case, it's him giving people his opinion on the film and then elaborating on why he has this opinion. You aren't debunking him with facts and logic Ben Shapiro style by pointing out that he hasn't gotten to the part of his video where he actually attempts to make persuasive arguments. Responding this way so early on only communicates that you're going to criticize Stinker for whatever he says, and that you're pretty much not allowed to have a negative opinion of Thunderbolts. I am begging you to stop starting off your videos like this. It's so unbelievably petty. Even if you dislike Stinker and his content, you should still acknowledge that he articulated what his specific issues with the movie were. Also, you never refuted his point that the premise of the movie felt repetitive to him. Instead, you pretty much agreed with him by acknowledging that the MCU has done this before, but acted as though you refuted him for whatever reason.
And him saying that the main villain is poorly explained. Will he explain why he feels this way later in the video? Well, let's see.
Again, since this is the very start of his video, I would imagine so. But I'm going to take this opportunity to just say that the main villain, Valentina, is the absolute worst part of the movie by far. You have a villain that's been built up as an evil Nick Fury over the course of a few years by appearing in various MCU slop. She was in Black Widow. She was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. She was in Wakanda Forever. We haven't seen an MCU villain get this much build-up since Thanos. And like some sort of sick joke, when she finally appears as a main villain, she's just a complete idiot the entire time. She gets exposed as being a corrupt bureaucrat at the start of the movie where she faces impeachment, and proceeds to make the worst possible decisions as a reaction to it. One of the best examples being to force a guy blindly obeying her into going crazy for no reason whatsoever. What do you think you're doing disobeying my orders, Bob? You're my goddamn slave! But also, please don't crush my skull since I don't actually have anything to use as leverage for you to obey me. It doesn't make any sense for why she would piss him off in the first place, since her entire plan completely revolves around Bob. Just a really stupidly written character.
But is it really as bad as we expected, or does Thunderbolts somehow manage to pull off a surprise win? Well, let's find out together, shall we?
Let's begin.
The movie begins with discount Black Widow, who's feeling sad and worthless because there's not much going on in her life outside of her work. And if that's not a neat encapsulation of modern feminism, frankly, I don't know what is.
What?
What does anything you just said have to do with modern feminism, quote unquote? Like, I'm actually so lost right now. And her conflict isn't that she's sad and worthless because there's not much going on in her life outside of her job or whatever. You could say that's part of it, but the root of her depression stems from the fact that she's constantly doing terrible things, and she's been doing shit like this ever since she was a child. And she's been bottling all of it up and distancing herself from others for a very long time. But nah, bruh, it's just it's all modern feminism, I guess.
That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit. Fuck.
Yeah, I don't understand what Stinker is getting at here. It's just a random feminism bad comment without much substance.
Anyway, after completing her latest mission to blow up a lab in Southeast Asia, she's sent by discount Selena Meyer to infiltrate a high-security vault in the middle of nowhere where an enemy agent is about to steal a bunch of classified secrets. Now, a normal person might think it's a bit suspicious that discount Selena Meyer apparently knows exactly when and where she's gonna get robbed, but well, I guess discount Black Widow isn't a normal person.
I mean, that's certainly one way to frame how the movie plays out, but that's not what happens. Valentina tells Yelena that intel came in from a rogue operative, meaning someone on the inside, is planning to rob her. And with the heat that Valentina is currently under with, trying to hide her experiments so that she isn't impeached, it makes complete sense that Yelena would believe this, just like any normal person, quote unquote.
Colin, what the hell are you talking about? How does that at all counter Stinker's criticism of why Yelena is not suspicious of Val having information that she's about to be robbed? Presumably someone trying to rob their boss would do their best to hide the fact that they are about to do so.
I need you guys to understand how stupid this criticism is. This man just said that it's unbelievable that an intelligence operative wouldn't find it suspicious that an intelligence agency gathered intelligence.
Just how dense can a person be?
Wow, you just repeated his reasonable criticism in a dumbed-down way with a condescending voice. You sure showed him. Now answer me this, Colin. Why does it make sense for an intelligence operative like Yelena to not want to know where the source of this intel came from? You're seriously telling me that she wouldn't want to find out why her target went rogue in the first place, or how she found out so she makes precautions against Valentina in case she went rogue herself?
But when she does get there, she finds John Walker, Ghost, and Task Manager waiting for her. It turns out they've all been sent here to kill each other in a kind of circular firing squad because discount Selena Meyer is now under congressional investigation and has decided to erase all evidence of her dodgy activities, including everyone that she employs. Once they're sealed inside the vault, a self-destruct timer activates to vaporize the whole place.
Not a great plan.
Wow, it's lucky that they all happened to arrive here at the same exact time, otherwise this never would have worked. It's even more lucky that there was a 2-minute countdown to detonation, thus giving them fair warning and plenty of time to escape. It's even luckier that the power source for the sonic barrier preventing Ghost from unlocking the doors just so happens to be in the room with them.
So this is the only part of the video I really agree with. I do think that the power source for the barrier being in the same room as them and the timer for the incinerator thing to warm up or whatever is pretty dumb. I even mentioned this in my video, and I also think another problem with this scene is the fact that there's like some plot armor for some of the characters with how the fight plays out. I don't think these are problems that are like, oh man, this movie sucks now because of this, da 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 da. But as for them all being there at the same time, one of his criticisms, I don't know how that would be contrived. Valentina could have easily orchestrated them all to be there at around the same time. So how does that not make sense? Like, even if you think about it for 1 second.
It's contrived because all of the operatives arriving at the facility at the exact same time is very coincidental, and they can show up late or early of their own accord without Valentina telling them, which would ruin her entire trap. But the bigger elephant in the room is how none of them stop to think that they've been played by Valentina. Sure, you could point out how the characters have plot armor because Ghost really shouldn't struggle with the rest of them since her powers are completely broken, but that takes away from the bigger criticism that they should all be smart enough to realize that they shouldn't be fighting at all once they see people there besides their target.
Actually, as I was rewatching the movie for the next point that I'm about to refute, I thought of a slight defense for the incinerator thing. So with Valentina having this place as one of her, places of operation, an incinerator used to incinerate things, I would imagine that there would be people working on the incineration process for her. So I'd imagine the timer is probably a safety precaution, as well as the power source being in the same room as them.
Thus far, you have been adrift in the sheltered harbor of my patience. But I cannot ignore you being jobless.
Colin, you were so close to just acknowledging a flaw in the film, but you just had to come up with a half-assed defense just to spite Stinker. If Valentina had knowledge of a timer or a way for her operators to disable the incinerator, why would she not disable their ability to do so?
And also, her original plan was to have them all kill each other anyway, and she didn't expect at all in the slightest that they would start working together when they were literally all trying to kill each other. And she's monitoring the whole thing. And on top of that, she has backup ready that she can get there, and did get there, very quickly in the event that something goes wrong. So I don't really think this is much of a problem with the movie anymore.
If Valentina didn't think that they would work together, then she's an idiot. Which breaks the movie because it absolutely makes no sense for someone this stupid to be in her position. Forcing them to kill each other all at once will obviously make them come to the conclusion that they were set up. If she wanted to ensure that they weren't used against her, why not simply bribe them into silence and have them go off the radar? She has entire strike teams already on her payroll who presumably won't speak out against her, so why can't she show them the same treatment?
So they make it out just in the nick of time, naturally, and it turns out they've got a new friend with them. This is Bob, a test subject for an experimental new program to create the Sentry, basically Marvel's answer to Superman. The longer Bob's conscious, the more his powers start to manifest until he's captured by discount Selena Meyer and brought back to New York to be unveiled to the public. Luckily though, Red Guardian shows up in a limo because he overheard discount Selena Meyer's entire plan when she was riding in his car, because I guess supervillains are happy to divulge their most intimate and damaging secrets in front of complete strangers. There's just all kinds of convenient luck happening in this movie.
Yeah, this criticism would make sense if she actually said anything important. Like, if you actually listen to the dialogue in the scene, no regular person, or even, hypothetically speaking, a congressperson, let's say they were in the car, they wouldn't even know what she's talking about. She doesn't say a location or what exactly is really happening. The only reason Red Guardian knows what she's talking about is because he's talked to Yelena. I'm not gonna play the scene due to, how long it is, so it'll get copyrighted on my video, but I'll leave it to the people that know how to watch movies online to rewatch that scene if they so care to.
Here you go. It's alphabet soup. I made it special.
If you criticize Stinker for anything here, it's that he's actually downplaying how stupid the entire process of Red Guardian finding out about Valentina's plan was. In order for Valentina to hire Red Guardian as her limo driver, we have to assume that she didn't do any background checks whatsoever, since he is not only Yelena's father, but also the once very famous Russian superhero Red Guardian, who the public is very much aware of as he advertises his superhero name on the side of his limo. There's also zero reason for her to not have a personal limo driver. She still has nameless grunts on her payroll as hired guns, but she doesn't have her own personal chauffeur? Are you serious? That by itself is insanely stupid, but it gets worse, because for some reason, despite being under federal investigation, Valentina has the bright idea of just blabbering about her entire plan of killing Yelena and the others instead of waiting for when she's in a private location, which absolutely incriminates her, especially if the limo has built-in cameras, which most of them do. And the final nail in the coffin here is that even though Valentina stupidly divulges her whole evil plan to Red Guardian without knowing, she still doesn't reveal where the location to her secret facility is, so he's just aimlessly roaming the desert. Where is he even going? It would be far more productive for him to just go, "Hey Valentina, I'm a superhero and I'm placing you under citizen's arrest since you just incriminated yourself." And the movie would be over, but instead we have this plot-induced stupidity to keep it going.
And also, if you were to, criticize the movie on it being convenient that Red Guardian was her limo driver, I don't really think it is, considering the fact that he wants to work with Valentina. So I think it makes sense that he would put himself in a position to be her limo driver, considering he's a limo driver.
Colin, please stop. You're just embarrassing yourself at this point. Red Guardian wanting to work for Valentina should mean absolutely nothing, because she should not want him working for her to begin with, since hiring him to be a chauffeur would massively inconvenience her for the reasons I previously outlined. There's no defending it. You just have to take the L in this one.
So the gang heads to New York to save Bob, but he goes a bit crazy and turns against everyone, so discount Selena Meyer activates a kill switch, but then he comes back to life as Angry Bob and makes a big cloud of sadness that swallows up New York City. But that's okay, because discount Black Widow and the gang go into the sadness cloud and help Bob defeat Angry Bob by having a good old cry, and then everything goes back to normal and somehow they become the new Avengers.
Okay, so we're just summing up the plot and speaking like things don't make sense while not actually explaining a problem. Wow. This review is incredible so far. I'm sure most people with some semblance of intelligence would watch this and see how bad of a video it is, right? Oh. Well, at least we got some people.
I've said on various open bars that I expected Thunderbolts to be a relatively decent, by-the-numbers, and ultimately forgettable action team-up movie that would probably fail to make much of a splash at the box office. But boy, was I wrong on that one. This movie is actually surprisingly shit, and the biggest problems stem from the complete tonal whiplash that it gives you. On the one hand, there's actually a pretty interesting attempt to explore the impact of personal trauma, depression, failure, a loss of self-worth, and a search for meaning and fulfillment in life. There's hints of this with Yelena and the rest of the gang, broadly mirroring the trauma that haunts and ultimately threatens to overcome Bob. And holy shit, the performance by Lewis Pullman is by far the best part of this entire movie. The guy is able to switch from befuddled innocence to haunted victim to a terrifying godlike entity in the space of a single scene. And if anything, I wanted to see more of this shit.
So he said that the movie is surprisingly shit, but then goes on to praise the entire thing that the movie is about, pretty much, and praises how good the main antagonist was. Okay?
You're just outright lying here because that's not what he says at all. He praises the performance of the actor playing the Sentry and liked the setup of the themes, but found the execution of said themes to be poor. You did the exact same thing to Charlie in your Joker 2 response video. Where do you get the confidence to make videos like this while completely misunderstanding the points being presented?
But there's a but coming, so, let's hear it.
The problem is, the movie doesn't have time to give this stuff the narrative depth that it needs, and it ignores most of the struggles of the rest of the team altogether. Why? Because we need to make more time for Marvel humor, protracted action scenes, pointless exposition, references to stuff that most people didn't even watch, and more Marvel humor.
Can you explain how the movie doesn't give the main stuff the time it needs to get explored as much as it needs to be? I mean, they do it perfectly fine for the main characters that they focus on, like Bob and fucking Yelena. And I agree, some of the characters don't get explored as much as others do, but you realize that's how a lot of stories work, right? Like even the Avengers movies. They have characters that don't have their conflict explored as much as other characters do.
Guys, I know Norbit is commonly seen as a bad, unfunny movie, but have you considered that it's no different from Shrek? Because it also has Eddie Murphy and jokes? How can you dislike one and not the other when they're exactly the same? This is such a shitty defense because you can compare apples to oranges to hand wave away criticism for any movie. Why even review any individual movie in the first place if an entirely separate movie done well is supposed to make up for the writing problems in this movie?
Like, is it a problem in Avengers 1 that Thor, Black Widow, Hulk, Hawkeye, none of these characters get as much character stuff as Cap and Tony, or Loki?
This is a really awkward way of admitting that you've never watched the Avengers, because all of the characters you mentioned have much more coherent story arcs in that film than most of, if not any, of the cast in Thunderbolts. In the early MCU movies, Thor's an arrogant stuck-up prince who learns to put his ego aside to work with everyone else as a team. And oh yeah, this entire movie he has a conflict with Loki, his own brother. Black Widow is initially a spy who is taught to never trust other people and has to learn how to get out of that mindset to work with everyone else on the team. Bruce Banner is still struggling to keep himself contained in order to not let Hulk out, and remains adamant in doing so until the downsides of him not doing so become too costly. Banner's fling with Natasha is what the Thunderbolts were trying to do with Yelena and Bob, but were nowhere near close to replicating. And even though he spends most of the film under mind control, even Hawkeye has an arc, because once Loki's mind control is undone, he risks his life to redeem himself.
Am I the only one who did the reading?
We had enough time to spend with these characters for them all to get a coherent arc. Yet for most of the cast in the Thunderbolts, we hardly get any characterization or any real justification for why they need to be in the film at all. Out of everyone on the team, we really only needed Yelena and Bob, and having a film with just the two of them would have honestly been better, since we would have gotten more opportunities to explore each of their respective characters.
Like, sure, we could get more stuff with other characters, but acting as though the whole movie is just barely any character stuff and is just filled with action scenes and jokes is just blatantly not true if you actually watched the movie. If anything, it's the complete opposite.
Stinker never said that it was only filled with jokes and action scenes. He said there was too much and didn't have enough time to flesh out the characters.
And could you provide me with even more than one example where jokes or action undercut the character stuff? Can you provide me with even one example? Can you explain what needed to be explored more about what specific characters? Can you explain what exactly was underdeveloped and how it was underdeveloped?
Okay, I can think of a few. You have the fight scene at the facility, which doesn't make any sense because they should all immediately realize that they were all set up. You have Bucky getting character assassinated not once, but twice by needlessly endangering people. You have have the tired Disney trope of characters just falling out between each other before the third act, with Bob joining Valentina for no reason other than to just have another fight scene. And oh yeah, all the characters just forgive Valentina for trying to kill all of them in the end for no reason other than to have cheap laughs. There is no reason why she shouldn't be in prison. She is just as bad as any leader of Hydra we've seen in the series who has weaponized the government for her own selfish ends while killing who knows how many people in the process. And for what? Having a new Avengers team? You don't need her to do that. You could all just join Sam Wilson's team since he's actively looking to get one started. I thought we were all on the same page in calling this laziness out, but I guess not, considering all it takes for some people to not care is to just have keys jangled in their faces faster.
Well, I guess not, because you never actually do in most of your videos, as pretty much every single one of them plays out the exact same way. Remember when you made a video trashing The Boys Season 4 and you formed your opinion based on Rotten Tomatoes scores? Man, that was a great video.
Yeah, I remember, and your response to him back then was shit too. You outright lied in your title by saying he reviewed it when his entire video was him explaining why he wasn't going to review it, because he was taking people at their word who said that it doubled down on the same shit in previous seasons that made him drop the show. And you know what? They were all right. Everyone agrees that this was the worst season of the show so far. Even if you weren't bothered by the low-effort political commentary completely taking over the show, it was a complete filler season that didn't justify the time it asked from us, as this could have just been the final season. But since this is one of the only shows anyone bothers to check out on Amazon Prime, they're just milking it for all it's worth. And Colin, if you disagree and actually think that The Boys Season 4 is the best season, then make a video proving me wrong. I'm more than happy to tear that video to shreds as well.
And this brings me on to by far the biggest problem with Thunderbolts. It's a tiny kernel of an interesting and serious idea buried under a mountain of all the usual shit that blights Marvel movies. It's like they heard all of the memes about the formulaic nature of their films, and instead of correcting themselves to counter it, they decided to lean even harder into it out of pure fucking spite.
Can you give me even one slightly detailed explanation about anything you're talking about? Give me one example.
The character development in this movie is completely fucked. Ghost is a character that I barely even remember from Ant-Man 2, so this would have been a perfect time to give her some actual personality and a narrative arc. Instead, she does almost nothing throughout the whole movie. Her powers are nerfed whenever they'd be inconvenient to the plot, which is most of the time to be fair, and I was left wondering why she's even in the film.
Keep in mind that I wasn't the one who edited this transition. Colin somehow thought that recording himself complaining that Stinker isn't giving any examples or elaborating while instantly cutting to him giving an example and elaborating made him look good. This guy is truly one of a kind.
Ghost has an entire narrative arc and a personality in Ant-Man 2. If you want what you're asking for, go watch that movie. This movie does not need to do that.
This is just a complete MCU fanboy slop argument. According to Colin, if you want this character who does nothing in this movie to justify their inclusion in this movie, then go watch a movie where she actually did justify her inclusion in the plot. Or here's a thought. The writers for Thunderbolts can simply do what's expected and justify her being in this movie. Apparently this needs to be told to you, Colin, but you can give a character another character arc in a sequel so they have something to do. Otherwise, what's even the point in having a character like this appear again if they provide extremely little or nothing? And not only did you not refute Stinker's criticism since he just said that the previous movie Ghost appeared in didn't provide him with enough material to care about her, but you also proved his point once again, acknowledging that Ghost is given nothing to work with in this movie. When you make criticisms like this, you're just setting yourself up to never criticize anything ever again, which Colin of course doesn't acknowledge because I doubt he has any intention of being consistent with these standards in any way whatsoever in the future. For some reason, this guy would just rather die than compromise with someone he disagrees with. And that's going to be his undoing if he doesn't understand that he's only sabotaging himself by acting like this.
Why is this movie not allowed to be just like any other movie and have certain characters they want to focus more on? I guess by this same token, we could say Avengers 1 has a massive problem by not giving Black Widow and Hawkeye very much character stuff.
No, because Avengers 1 gave them enough for their characters to chew on, which isn't something that can be said for Ghost. You not only revealed to everyone that you haven't watched the first Avengers movie, but you also have no idea that you're just giving whataboutisms, where you're not even contesting that this is bad writing, but instead trying to sweep the bad writing under the rug by attempting to point to a bigger example of bad writing that isn't even accurate.
And I'm gonna ask again, can you elaborate or give me one example besides the beginning of the movie, which I already went over, where they're in the incinerator room, where Ghost was nerfed and her powers weren't used, how they should be, for the sake of the plot? I mean, you say it's most of the movie, so surely you can give some examples, right?
Let's see, she could not get immediately captured by Bucky, she could hold Valentina hostage to get Sentry to stand down. I don't know, just spitballing here. She's incredibly overpowered, which introduces a bunch of problems.
John Walker exists for no other reason than to be wrong about everything and constantly mocked and belittled by the strong female characters around him. You know, like basically every other Marvel movie since Endgame.
While I don't think Walker was made into a punching bag for the other characters as commentary expressing how dumb men are since the male characters also shit on him, I do think this character was put into an unfortunate position because the writers want the audience to actively root against him, even if it requires him to be flanderized and character assassinated like he was in Thunderbolts. The main purpose of him being introduced in Falcon and the Winter Soldier was to communicate not only how not everyone has what it takes to be Captain America, but also to further flesh out Sam Wilson's character, who up until being handed the shield, who needed more character depth if he was going to become the new Captain America. And there are a number of ways you can accomplish this. For instance, you can have John Walker not share Steve Rogers' more humanitarian mindset by giving him more of a shoot first, ask questions later Warhawk mentality at the direct expense of other people. You could even have him disrespect Steve by saying that he was a coward for retiring. Then you could have Sam push back on Walker's mentality by communicating the virtues of Steve's worldview and show how he's going to uphold it as a new Captain America. By having Walker be so naturally unlikable, it would deflect any hate or skepticism Sam would get for taking the mantle by having him take it from Walker, so he would at least get to be better than him specifically. But they don't really take this route with Walker, as throughout the series, he's completely reasonable as his downfall didn't really happen due to any personality flaws, but because he was simply unlucky and then spiraled due to everyone treating him like shit. So he ended up being way more sympathetic and interesting than Sam, who along with Bucky were dickheads to him for no reason. And what annoys me so much about him in this movie is that MCU slop enjoyers will tell you with a straight face that he was far more sympathetic in this movie when he's shown wanting to kill Bob, an innocent civilian, throwing his marriage away because he saw mean comments online, despite one of his positive aspects being shown is that he values his friends and family, and initially refusing to accept that he was set up by Valentina because he still wants to be a lapdog for her. It makes zero sense for this character to act like this as he was previously portrayed. He goes from being the most interesting character in the entire MCU to one of the biggest examples of the writers for this franchise being completely out of touch and tone deaf.
Or he exists because he has a shared conflict with the rest of the characters in the group, and it makes complete sense for him to be in this movie after Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and also he's a part of the Thunderbolts in the comics.
Colin, please do not pretend you have read any issues of the Thunderbolts when you don't even read comics to begin with. You have no idea what's comic accurate or inaccurate, so don't make appeals to the comics. The movies are not the comics. They can be executed in vastly different ways. Also, what happened to your previous stance of appeals to the comics being bad?
And I like how you said he's mocked and belittled by all the female characters, yet he was beating the absolute dog shit out of Yelena when they first fought, and all of them get their asses kicked by Bob, the white straight male. Also, all of them get saved and carried by Bucky and or Red Guardian at points in this movie, both white straight men. It's almost like there's a massive point about everyone in this group being shitty and wrong about things. I guess it was also a problem when Yelena mocked and belittled Ghost at the end of the movie too, and everybody in the group. And mind you, Bucky and Sam also mocked and belittled John Walker in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and the reason they talk to him like this is because John's a fucking dickhead.
I understand Walker was also being a dickhead to them at times, but what you need to understand is that they were antagonistic to him from the get-go, so you can't really blame him for being a dickhead to them back.
Also, aren't you the same person that says that he doesn't like when politics inject themselves in media where it doesn't concern them, or for no reason? Okay, so why are you now interjecting politics where they don't belong, or where it doesn't concern them at multiple points in this video? Huh.
Red Guardian's still an obnoxiously loud moron, proving the point that just shouting stuff really loud isn't a substitute for humor.
Counterpoint. Red Guardian is peak. No, but like on a serious note, whether Drinker finds him funny or not, I don't really care. Like, humor is one of the most subjective things in the world.
If you find humor to be so subjective, then why are you even responding to this point?
But he did get some nice depth added to his character in this movie that ties greatly into Yelena's same conflict.
Bucky's here because they couldn't think of anything else to do with his character.
No, Bucky's there because he fits completely within a movie where the main theme is depression due to a traumatic past.
Appealing to themes is not an argument. You're just appealing to emotions at this point. Pretty much all films have themes. Some even have the same themes, but they still differ in quality.
He is also someone who's a Thunderbolt in the comics. And while Bucky isn't explored like majorly in the movie or anything, they do some nice stuff to continue him in this universe by showing him as a congressman trying to do good things by not needing to be the Winter Soldier, quote unquote, but ultimately he has to be that person in order to get things done in this movie.
He allowed a corrupt politician to get away with their crimes and enabled them to avoid impeachment. He's a terrible congressman.
And as for Ass Blaster, well, all I'll say is don't get too attached to her.
Oh no! What happened?
What was he saying earlier in the video about humor?
Didn't you say something earlier in the video about humor being subjective? And I hate to break it to you, Colin, but you are not funny yourself. The only time you and funny are in the same sentence is when people are talking about the memes telling you to get a job.
I'm gooning every day. The huzz I scare away. I smell like fish fillet. I have no work today because I have no job.
And for the life of me, I'll never understand why Marvel keep trying to make Yelena a thing. I mean, what exactly are we supposed to find appealing about this character? She's basically a shorter, dumpier, less appealing version of Black Widow with a shitty Russian accent and played by a disinterested Florence Pugh who practically faxes in her performance. She is way better than movies like this, and she knows it.
Bro, what? Like, yeah, no shit, her conflict is similar to Black Widow. They went through very similar things as a child.
His point is that's too repetitive. If you're going to rehash the same plot again, at least switch things up a bit.
But we see her struggling with her past as she wants to try and be something more, just like her sister. Only instead of seeing that past self being, mentioned in a passing mention, we actually get to see Yelena doing the horrible shit before she has the opportunity to be a part of something bigger like Black Widow did. And I don't understand how you don't have the brain to, realize, wow, a struggle not feeling like you're worth anything and feeling like life is meaningless and feeling shitty because of past mistakes wouldn't be appealing to a lot of people, as it's a very relatable character struggle.
Colin, Suicide Squad 2016 has similar, if not the exact same themes of overcoming past trauma, mistakes, and mental illness. If you think that themes alone make a movie great, why should this movie not be considered great too?
And Florence Pugh has the best performance in this movie along with Louis Pullman. You just praised her performance by saying that she seems disinterested and bored. That's kind of the point.
Your intellect is as weak as your dollar. Failure is your destiny. You disrespect yourself and your nation. You are made of stupid.
Guys, why do you care if actors don't put in any effort in their acting? All that matters are the themes.
And you are right, Florence Pugh has been in much better movies. But if I recall, you also made another shitty review about one of those movies, being Midsommar.
He did, and that was a bad video from Stinker. But this is still a poor counter because Florence Pugh has been in movies besides Midsommar.
There's a phenomenon here in my country that we call the Scottish cringe, a kind of inherited cultural embarrassment that we all feel because we all know we're a bit shit these days. We never say it out loud and we don't really admit it even to ourselves, but deep down, we all feel it.
You saying this actually makes a lot of sense after watching multiple of your videos. It's actually one of, if not the only thing in this video that's made sense.
Now there's a face only a mother could love. What? Oh, sorry.
And the reason I bring this up is that, well, Thunderbolts is a perfect example of what I hereby dub the Marvel cringe. Watching this movie, I was struck by this weird feeling of embarrassment, not just for the people making slop like this, but for me as the audience.
Were you also embarrassed when you made an absolutely abysmal movie?
I imagine he was just as embarrassed as you were when you couldn't even get your shitty Moon Knight ripoff comic off the ground. And even if he made a bad movie, that still puts him leagues above you since he was actually working.
Watching a bunch of aging actors dressed up in their goofy outfits, reciting the hackneyed dialogue and the lame jokes, the physics-defying action scenes and the overdramatic villains, it's like watching a teenager who's still playing with action figures, or a woman in her 30s still listening to Taylor Swift songs, or a middle-aged man still going to nightclubs. All of them stunted, unable or unwilling to accept that the world around them is changing and it's time to move on now.
Dog, what are we even talking about anymore?
I think you forgot to record an argument or rebuttal here.
The MCU practically defined the cinematic zeitgeist of the 2010s, and love it or hate it, you can't deny the enormous success it had, but that was a long time ago now. Times have changed and the zeitgeist has moved on, and movies like Thunderbolts now feel like dated, unfashionable holdovers from a different era, from a franchise that can't or won't accept that it just isn't that relevant anymore.
I mean, that's ironic considering it made more money than most movies ever make.
Colin is making it sound as though this was the most financially successful MCU movie in recent memory, when it had lower returns than Black Adam and Eternals. In other words, it not only flopped, it became the second worst MCU movie when it came to the box office because it lost Disney $100 million. So put the big boy numbers away, Colin, because you are completely clueless.
And people are absolutely enjoying the shit out of this movie, so
Are you seriously bringing up Rotten Tomato scores to prove your point when earlier you criticized Stinker for doing exactly what you just did?
It must really suck that, you know, hardworking and talented artists such as yourself aren't making the same boom in the industry.
I would say that it was at least successful in the sense that it didn't lose the production company that helped make it $100 million, so there's that. And again, Colin, when is your comic coming out? I'm dying to read it and give my unfiltered thoughts on it.
A bottom of the barrel kind of movie, made to fill a release slot and keep the MCU grinding forward until the inevitable reboot comes along to start the whole process over again.
Okay.
Well, that's gonna be the end of this response. Sorry about it being so late. I was actually gonna drop this like a week ago, but I was waiting for a sponsor, and then that sponsor is making me post that at a later date. So that's why this video is late. If you want to go and watch his video for yourself, it will be in the description. I thank you all for watching, and yeah.
And that's the end. I don't know what else to say other than that this video was complete garbage. You can really tell that he only put this video out to fulfill a quota, which is why he waited to release this until a sponsor got back to him. But what really irks me is how low effort the argumentation from Colin was the entire time. Pretty much all of his responses to Stinker can be summed up as ad homs, conceding to points he made without realizing it, and misunderstanding his points and attacking strawmen instead. For someone who e-begs to his fans for money, I honestly feel that Colin is entitled to pay me money to sit through his nonsense. Even if some of you like the Thunderbolts, you have to admit that Colin did an awful job at defending it. But those are just my thoughts, and if you have your own, then be sure to flex them off in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.